Nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee.
Hello friends, today we're recording live on location with a live studio audience. We have some people here to watch me make this week's episode of Nearer to Thee. And I've been thinking about what I wanted to say this week, and I happened upon just the very thing that gave me an idea to talk to you about. I read an interview with an anthropologist who was saying things about the place that religion has played in the evolution of modern societies. And his theory is that, religion played an important role in the evolution of modern societies because it told people that they should cooperate with each other, that they should follow moral rules, and that God is paying attention to what they do. And so, even if somebody's not looking, they should still do the right thing. They should be equitable and fair to one another. They should follow conventional rules of morality and so forth, this is. So this is the theory. And so the theory goes on to say that, now we have modern societies that have institutionalized these kinds of things, rules and authority and practices that keep us in line and make us cooperate with each other. And so really the author says, we don't really need God anymore. Now we've got these secular institutions, governments and the like, to help us do the right thing. And I will mention, by the way, in my day job, I'm an academic, and I've actually done research on the emergence of large, complex, modern societies too. I do have a different take on it than this anthropologist does, but I want to take still a different take on it here than I would say in my secular research. In the author's, or this anthropologist's view, he assumes that, God isn't real. God's just a product of our imaginations. God is a fantasy. That's positivism. This is what it's called. And oftentimes you'll hear people say, science tells us this. And people act as if science is kind of a freestanding thing that just accumulates truths. And philosophers of science will tell you something different. Even scientists don't often realize that what they're doing, science is based upon philosophy. People sometimes think that science gives us uncontrovertible, factual truths that can't possibly be interpreted in any other way, and that we just collect knowledge as we go along. Philosophers of science will tell you that our scientific knowledge is always tenuous and liable to err, and that's how we learn more. We learn that what we thought we knew before about the world around us was wrong. And of course, yes, there's a lot more to it than that, but positivism is the idea that's reflected in this anthropologist interview, and it's the view that the only things that are real are things that we can perceive with our senses. If we can't see it, if we can't measure it, if we can't weigh it, if we can't feel it, it's not real. Okay? If we can't observe it with our senses, it's not real. And so if somebody makes that assumption, and yes, that is an assumption, because that rules out all kinds of things. Beauty, right and wrong, justice, right? These are things we do not actually observe with our senses. So the thorough positivist, the consistent positivist, actually winds up giving up a whole lot. They often don't realize that. They just focus on, we're gathering facts and we know more all the time. But positivism is a philosophical view, and not all philosophers of science accept it, not all scientists accept it. I am a social scientist. I do not accept positivism as an understanding of what scientists do. I teach scientific method. I know what science is. I wouldn't regard myself as a positivist in the philosophical sense. That said, I think that we can interpret the phenomena that this author was talking about in a very different way. What we can interpret it as is the following. God created the universe in which we live. God created this world. And so rather than saying our things fit the world so we don't need God anymore, we always needed God because this is a world that God created. And all those things that this author was talking about our consciousness of God, paying attention to what we do, the importance of doing right, of treating other people fairly, of following rules of moral conduct and the like. All of these things are aspects of the way living as God wants us to is well suited to the world in which we live. We live in a world created by God, and living as God intends us to do makes us well suited to the world in which we live. God, you could say, as game theorists put it, is an evolutionary stable strategy. Following God makes sense. This is God's world. Living as God intends for us to live makes sense. It works. It doesn't work just because it happened a long time ago and people don't need it anymore. We still need God. We still need God. We can't just rely on the government to tell us what to do and make everything be okay. It just doesn't work that way. We can rely on God, though, because God's there and God still loves us after all these years. In spite of all the things we say and do, He still loves us anyway. And He's still paying attention to what we do. Amen.